You mentioned the burgeoning debt of the state, and there's been an example this week of Dan Andrews' cavalier attitude towards debt, and that is the case of finding a lazy $15 million to essentially buy the Diamonds national netball team. He sponsored the team through the state's tourism department after the team separated with former sponsor Gina Reinhart over something her father said 40 years ago. But this is a very rash decision of Andrews to throw $15 million at the netball team. Do you think that's starting to backfire as well?
Look, I reckon it is. I understand from a political perspective why he wanted to do it, what the strategy is, but I reckon it's backfired precisely because of the issue that you've mentioned. I mean, there's $160 billion of debt in Victoria right now. So where is this money coming from? Is this the best investment of taxpayers' money? Well, most people are saying, well, no, it's not. Yes, if the economy is roaring and everything's under control, maybe you look at these kind of things. But at the end of the day, most Victorians are now understanding that the state is in significant financial difficulty, and you can't just blame COVID. You can't just blame the lockdowns. There's massive cost overruns on pretty much every single major infrastructure project. You've got wages blowouts in the public sector, and you've got this issue of rising interest rates, which means that Victoria is very vulnerable because of all the interest costs on debt, which are now rising rapidly. And the more that you have to pay off your debt in terms of the interest costs, the less you have for schools, the less you have for roads, the less you have for hospitals, and it becomes a real issue. So the debt and the economy and the state's finances are becoming a much bigger issue as we head into the election in a few weeks' time.
Jeez, it's not looking good for Andrews, I've got to say. Anyway, just staying with sport for a second, the IPA has just released some polling that finds, as I said in my editorial earlier this evening, that sporting codes have become too politically correct. What figures did you find, Dan?
Well, what we found, Fred, is that 61% of Australians agree with the statement that sporting codes like the AFL or the rugby, cricket, netball have become too politically correct. And this gets to an issue, which is that Australians are fed up with having these politically correct woke sermons delivered to them before sporting events. They're fed up with sporting stars and sporting captains using their privileged platform to engage in campaigning for their own pet political causes. And the reason Australians have had enough of it is because it divides us. You know, you might not agree with what Pat Cummins thinks about climate change or whatever else, so you're going to feel excluded from coming to the sport because you go, well, I don't agree with him, so why do I have to listen to this being put forward at a sporting event? And it's a real tragedy because sport has always united us as a nation. It's brought us together, rich or poor, no matter your race, your religion, ethnicity or gender. You all come together, you celebrate, you cheer, you play together. It's one of the key glues of our social fabric. And it's such a shame that we have sports people like Pat Cummins or whoever else it might be, again, using their privileged platform. They should be representing all of us, not engaging in their politically correct campaigning. And Australians are just fed up with it, and it should stop. I mean, they should just get on with it and play just like we used to.
Are you saying that Australian sports fans are going to sporting events to watch sport? They're not going there to hear politics.
No, and look, you make an important point, which is like everything's political these days.
Yeah.
It's hard to escape politics. Sport is, or at least until recently, has been one of the last holdouts where you could actually go to sport to get away from politics, to get away from work, to get away from the day-to-day things that you're dealing with, and to focus on excellence on the sporting field. I mean, that's why people go.